Tower Food Service and Jackson Public Schools, Director of Food Services, Brant Russell, and his special guest this week, corporate chef from Taher Dining, Chris Murray. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and Chris, welcome to Jackson.
Thank you.
And I was telling Chris before the show, I wish we could have warmer weather for him. And it turns out your hometown is?
Buffalo, Minnesota.
Which is?
It's a little bit colder, a little bit windier, and 6-foot snowdrift.
Wow. Well, great to have you here. And Brant, this is not the first time you've hosted a corporate chef from the home office.
No, right. Actually, Chris was here when we did our hog roast about 4 or 5 years ago. He was on Food Circus, and we highlighted that. Kids really enjoyed that. What? And then we've had John Sigamura here.
Oh, yeah, that's right, John.
He did a couple of Japanese things. He did Japanese dumplings. And then he did a karaage chicken one time also for kids.
Well, it's pretty cool. I think the company does this. We got to learn a little bit about why, but what's the purpose? Why go through all the trouble to come in and visit the communities where Taher is?
Well, you know, a lot of it is about education, about the foods we do. We travel around and we eat some really nice foods from around the world. And we come back and we duplicate the recipes. And we try to create that food for the kids to give them a new experience, a cultural experience. So when we come in with these foods, we're not just showing them the food, but we also educate them on the culture that we've seen along with it. So it's a lot of fun.
You ask any kid where there's a school lunch program what their favorite food is, and the number one answer is pizza.
Yep.
And chicken nuggets.
Chicken nuggets, but they can't eat that every day.
No.
They can at the high school.
But you've gone above, really, I think, way above and beyond what you would expect school food service to be, with a lot of variety and a lot of experimentation. Kids are seeing things they've never probably seen before at home.
Right. We have a Harvest of the Month program and a limited time offering program through Taher. And this last month, I cannot pronounce it, OJJA, casserole, also called shakshuka. Yeah, it's a tomato-based product with tuna, believe it or not, canned tuna, and then poached eggs on top. And it's got harissa and some other spices in it, but it's a northern African dish, and the high school kids and the middle school kids both enjoyed it. We did that for a taste testing.
So how do you get the kids? If you were to say, oh, we're going to have canned tuna with an egg on it, you probably wouldn't have too many people lined up for that. How do you get kids interested in trying some of these, what sound to me unusual?
You know, a lot of times it's about getting the first few kids to try it. Mm-hmm. And then once those first few try it, more fall in line.
Oh, the cool kids table?
The cool kids table. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll actually sample it out. If they're not coming in line, I'll take samples and go out to the tables and have them sample it, and then all of a sudden you got people in line.
What's your background, Chris?
Well, before I was with Taher, I was in High End Country Club as a catering chef. I worked for the Vikings for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And then Mr. Bruce Taher found me, and I've been with him for 20 years now.
Nice. They're big eaters?
Yes. Yes.
Well, while you're here, our Food Circus team came to one of the schools you're at, and we'll have a complete episode of a new Food Circus next week. But here's a clip, a preview of what we'll have for you next week on JTV.
Now we will have Chef Elena. She will show you our sweet mango slaw. This goes in the tacos. It's a large part of the flavor. We've got some beautiful fresh green peppers, red peppers, fresh cilantro, and a sweet mango. This is a recipe that I wrote and created. I felt that I wanted a crunch and some fresh fruit flavors in there, so I chose to use mango as it's tropical. There's no vinegar, nothing else other than the juices from the fresh vegetables and the mango. This slaw, again, will sit in the walk-in overnight. Those flavors will start to marry. Now we'll show you how we're going to cut this and how it's going to go into the tacos. Then we'll put a little bit of barbecue on it and can actually taste it. So I didn't want, everybody shreds up their meat. I didn't want to do shredded meat. I thought nice chunks, bite-sized chunks would be great in the taco. Everything will get a little bit of the Samoan barbecue that we just made.
Looks beautiful, nice and juicy.
Right? So what'll happen is in the end, when this is all cut, it will get tossed rolled in some of the Samoan barbecue, and then it'll get put back in the oven at 450 degrees, and that barbecue will caramelize on that meat. It'll almost be like blackened ends and pieces. That adds to the flavor. So just wait till Thursday. It's going to be much, much better.
Wow, it looks delicious.
It's amazing. I don't generally talk about my own food too much, but this one hit the mark.
Well, I noticed you had mango in it, and Brant, you made a mango. One of your culinary staff made a mango from scratch, a mango pudding.
That was Chef Elena, yep.
Yeah, and that was awesome. So, using bright colors like that's kind of a trick to get kids to try.
Brightens
something.
up the food. The acid and the sweetness also brightens up the food also. So
We always say you eat with your eyes first. So you want things to taste to 75% visual. So the first thing we need to do is make sure it looks good. The taste is going to follow.
And I think a story too, especially with the Chef Council traveling around the world. I think a nice story, not nice story, but a nice background into the experiences that they had while they were touring the country and developing the food, and hey, I made this recipe to the kids, and I think it gives them more of a buy-in into the whole process.
Well, obviously, you two know that food service is a great career, very demanding. But do you get some kids that latch onto you and get interested in becoming a chef just from your exposure to them?
We do. Specifically, I like to go through the food classes at the schools, and they help out. Then we find the kids that want to be chefs or want to look at that career, culinary career potentially, and try to mentor them. I currently have a couple of mentors, or a couple of apprentices that I do work with in that aspect.
Brant, do you have kids working the kitchen?
All the kids here at Jackson, and I think in the county, we don't have necessarily a foods class, but they all go to the Career Center and have, I think there's 20 in the morning and 20 in the afternoon. I do have a couple of students that work for me from Jackson High during the morning, and they're making sandwiches and salads for service later during the day. So yeah, we're slowly working towards that way.
As Brant said, we do travel around the world, and the experiences that we have in those countries, we like to share those with the kids as we're making the foods from those particular countries. So it's really all about the food and the culture. When you learn the culture, you understand the hows and the whys, the becauses of the way they make their foods. Like I tell all the kids, there's a lot of truth to the fact that the history of the world and the history of food follow each other, if you think about it.
Well, and food also brings us together. I mean, you think of Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter, all those holiday times bring families together, birthdays, a lot of it always centers around food. So
Yeah,
it's like the universal language, I guess.
You're always in the kitchen.
and that's a career that will always be in demand because we've got to eat.
Right.
What's your favorite cuisine yourself?
I like authentic Mexican foods. I didn't consider myself very well informed or very good at Asian foods until I started traveling. I think I'm pretty good with Asian foods as well now. But I really do like good, authentic Mexican food.
And I think people, and I'm probably a good example. I'm not a big fan of, say, Indian food, but I know nothing about it. I may have tried it once or twice. It's ignorance that prevents us from going out and trying something new.
Yep.
Brant, what's your favorite cuisine?
I would have to say Mexican as
Really?
well, yeah.
Well, that's great because kids love that.
Oh, they do, yeah, it's one of their favorites, awesome, it is.
The protein that was in this clip, what was that?
That's pork belly.
Okay.
Same as bacon. So it's rubbed with a special mesquite rub that we created, and it's slow roasted in the oven, low and slow, to make it tender. 225 low fan, comes out 3 or 4 hours later, and we tasted it yesterday. It turned out phenomenal.
And what were the responses? What kids think about it?
The kids across the country love this. I've been working on this project, on this particular concept for 2 years, and I believe in that process I've cut almost 4,000 pounds of pork belly across the country. And that's phenomenal.
Is it more expensive to try unusual recipes like that in a school service setting?
Not necessarily. Sometimes yes, and that's okay periodically. Most often we still try to meet a certain goal for food cost and so on, which we tend to get there.
Now you also shop local, and you go farm to table with a lot of things that you do
Right.
at JPS.
This time of year is a little harder when it's 15 degrees outside. But, yeah, especially when spring comes around and then summer and fall, we work with G Farms and Fusilier Farms quite closely.
Kids looking forward to lunch, that's a goal, but nutrition, healthy lifestyle, healthy eating, it's a secret message that's part of your spiel too, isn't it?
It is. For instance, this meal that we're serving, the Hawaiian Island street tacos tomorrow and Friday, it is gluten-free. We took great measure to make sure it was, because we're aware that there's dietary needs. We do also have a chicken version of it for those that won't eat pork. So we always want to be ready for that. So everybody does get to try it. Again, I can do a vegetarian also. So it's pretty wide.
So you've got kindergartners and you've got high school seniors and everybody in between. Is it hard to fit a menu to such a wide age range?
Not necessarily. The variety that Brant has at his school tends to hit all the buttons. When we're doing the foods like tomorrow, the Hawaiian Island street tacos, everybody seems to like it. That's what I tell everybody. Don't discount the taste buds of the kids, especially the little ones. With what goes on the internet and on TV and stuff, they know. Those kids know food. Don't discount their taste buds.
Do you keep the ingredients secret till after they've eaten them?
If they ask, I'll tell them.
All right, like you did with Brandon.
Yeah. If they ask, I'll tell them.
And a lot of taste testing in the elementary. So we also have a Harvest of the Month program. So last month was plum and ginger and I can't remember what else. But we did a plum ginger smoothie for the elementary kids in a couple of buildings, and they liked, it's a way to introduce foods to them that they might not get at home.
And speaking of not getting something at home, the lunch that they're having at JPS, that might be their main meal of the day,
Correct.
or maybe their only meal of the day.
Correct.
Puts a little extra pressure on making sure that they like what you have.
I'm not going to let any child go hungry.
And this is continuing all week. You're at how many schools?
2 schools, high school Thursday,
Yep. And middle school Friday.
middle school Friday.
Awesome. Now you've got, tell us a little bit about your Minnesota Vikings experience. What's that like, feeding football players?
Well, the Vikings at one stage actually owned a food service. So they were only the team. They were the only team in the NFL, if I get this right, that were grandfathered in to be able to use that food service. So I not only cooked for the team, but I went around and I did a lot of catered events for them as well. They had 2 other chefs that worked there, which were very good, and I believe one of them is still there. I filled in for them. It was really interesting. I was emptying a catering truck one time, and late at night, and Brad Johnson was the quarterback for the team at the time, and he actually came out and helped me empty it. He was stopped by the coaches. You can't do that. He might get hurt. So it's pretty cool. They're good guys.
You do a lot of traveling. You're always on the road?
I am pretty much always on the road. It's pretty rare that I'm in the same place for more than a day. Everywhere from Minnesota to Kentucky to the East Coast, all the way out to Oregon.
Now, when you're visiting local places, are you trying to get some information about local cuisine? Like, Brand, have you taken them to Virginia Coney Island this week?
No, I have not. I'll have to get them there. Yeah.
I do look around for things, and that's I tell the kids too. Every quadrant of the United States has a different food, has a different flavor, and if you really look back, it's really where the people came from that are in that area. The southeastern food is different than the southwestern food that you see. When I'm down in Kentucky, I saw fried bologna everywhere. You can't give away a fried bologna sandwich in Minnesota, basically. But if you can't do a fried bologna sandwich in Kentucky, you're not going to get a job. That's just how it is. Every region has its thing.
And you don't even realize that. Now, Hawaii, I understand, is the #1 state for Spam sales.
Hawaii, yes, the most eaten protein in Hawaii, yes. So there's actually a very famous street food in Hawaii called masubi, which is a Spam sushi, basically. So, and you know, obviously it got there during World War II, and it continues on.
Now, I noticed you got food on a stick. Last time you were here, last time when John was here, I think you had food on a stick too. Is that it?
The last time, well, when we did the karaji chicken, we did. Last time he was here, we went around to different classes and made the dumplings, the gyoza.
Gyoza, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the kids really enjoyed that. They got to, not that they ate the ones they made, but they got to experience folding them and kind of the background of how Japanese dumplings are different from Chinese dumplings, and John made sure we all knew that.
Well, what a great experience for the kids to be exposed to this and try some new things. And, we appreciate you guys doing that for our kids, and we appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Great
having us.
work. Yeah, it's awesome. JPS Food Service, Tower Food Service, very creative, inventive, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. Oh, and the Ambassador Dinner's back this year.
Oh, it is?
Yes, we're having just appetizers before the auction, but put that on your calendar, March 10th.
And I believe I'm coming back to help out with that.
He is,
so.
yep.
Oh, good.
Chef Chris will be back.
It's an amazing spread. Look forward to that. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Director of Food Service for JPS, Brant Russell, and corporate chef from Taher Dining, Chef Chris Murray. And you'll see them next week on a brand new episode of Food Circus. Stay with us, more to come.